So, I mean, the content has changed slightly. As I say, the content has got far larger. If anyone's interested in the things that are now added or not, I can let them know. But I mean, it's stuff that you'll probably be comfortable with. But it was always that bit which was kind of dodgily in the crossover between a good A and A star grade and people taking C1 in the old maths curriculum, where there was a jump. It basically recapped the A star curriculum for GCSE and then added a couple of things. They've now just dragged all that content into GCSE, so it will be introduced to people doing it. All right, so for higher tier, they're now expected to know the equation of a circle, simply with a centre, find the equation of tangents. They're expected to use numerical analysis, so iteration, to find approximate solutions of difficult graphs. Gradient is the instantaneous rate of change, so the idea that gradient's going from just something they may have seen or see on a straight line actually to something in context. All right, it's becoming a little bit more practical. That's going, hopefully connecting with science.
Including calculus?
Interesting. It is said in the government work that gradient is an instantaneous rate of change. I have seen in some literature and heard from some exam boards they're considering some basic calculus. So you may see in some GCSE courses students introduced to differentiation, right, at a very simple level, which I think is not a bad thing, but that may be how some interpret it. It would be interesting to see if that's what comes out of, that was in their consultation period. It would be interesting to see if that comes out in their exams that they start posting in more of their materials as they go forward. Along with circles, the concepts of chords and tangents and stuff. So there's just a little bit more to do with geometry that can link it back to algebra. So it's going along, it sort of jumps into that A-level slot, which allows more of those connections to be made. Okay, where that gap used to exist, it's basically connected to that arch, which I think again makes the course have more sense, but again will make it more challenging just because there's a little bit more. For foundation tier, they now need to know trigonometry in right-angle triangles. They need to know standard form. They will be introduced to vectors, simple adding, subtracting, and multiplication by scalars, and will need to know how to use those in both graphs and column representation on paper. They will be required to factorise quadratic expressions, simple ones, with a leading coefficient of 1 and difference of 2 squares. And I think they're going to be, again, as a result of being asked to make more connections and to do more problem solving, they're going to need to understand the basic linear equation, so y equals mx plus c, in more depth and to connect it to more graphs and other stuff. The other things that are being added for everyone are exact trigonometric values for sine and cosine for 0, 30, 45, 60 and 90. So basically there are two triangles which you can use if you split an equilateral triangle, if you use a square and cut it in half. They need to know all of those and how those ratios work. A lot of the answers are going to require them to think about ranges of solutions, and so therefore using inequalities to define or to express those ranges in mathematical sentences to give error intervals is going to become more common. Venn diagrams are becoming standard. I think it used to be in one of the boards, it's now standard. I think it will be in all of them. And percentages, I didn't realise this wasn't a thing, and I've been teaching it to kids forever. And it wasn't in GCSE, but you didn't used to have to do percentages over 100%. Now you do. That's standard. It's been made clear that calculating a percentage of over 100% of a number is now allowed at GCSE. Who knew it wasn't there before? So the funny thing is, I look at a lot of that content and I say, I don't feel like that's stuff I haven't taught kids of that age, or that I think kids of that age, of all abilities, won't be able to learn. It's just now in there. So they will be introduced to it. You will have the chance to do, and I think it's great, some more interesting maths with them as a result, because it connects more stuff. Okay? Excellent.